What is it with Dolores Umbridge? I mean, the woman is hated more than any other character in the book, even more so than Lord Voldemort. I mean, I've seen fans argue back and forth over who's worse between the Dark Lord, a vicious psychopathic murderer who's caused massive chaos and destruction, and a ministry official / school teacher whose cruelty to students really resonated a lot more with the reader, it appears. That's what I'm going to look at today. What was really happening with this woman? Why was she so ruthless, power hungry, and downright cruel? I want to dig into Dolores Umbridge's past and piece together what led her to becoming the awful excuse for a human being we've all grown to know her as from the books and the movies. So let's not wait any longer. Let's find out what was really going on with Dolores Umbridge. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but if there's one thing that I believe nobody can argue with, it's Imelda Staunton's incredible on-screen portrayal of Dolores Umbridge. I mean, I hated the character from the book, but I have never despised any Harry Potter character the way I despised her every single time she appeared in a scene. There's actually not one scene, not one, where she didn't say or do something awful. There's really not, I've checked. She's at least belittled someone every single time she's appeared on screen. You can say what you want about the movies, but a lot of the characters were actually done justice, and Umbridge was no exception. It made me wonder what her story was, because she wasn't exactly evil, she was more sinister, vindictive. She genuinely loved enforcing her authority, but more so than anything, she loved having a place amongst those in power. That was something I noticed early on. This woman would follow a giraffe if it was in a position of power. So I went and I dug deep into her past to try and get an understanding as to what was going on with this woman, because everyone begins somewhere. Voldemort was an abandoned orphan, Dumbledore lost his family at a young age, they all had a beginning, and Dolores' beginning wasn't that different from many others. She was born into the Umbridge family sometime on or before August 26, 1965. Her mother was a Muggle woman, permitted to live in the magical world, and her brother was born a squib. Her father, a wizard, blamed her mother's Muggle blood as the reason for their son being born a squib. They eventually separated, with Dolores' mother and brother both leaving the household, moving to the Muggle world, and neither of them were ever heard from again. Dolores was then raised by her father, but she now had her first-hand experience in magical prejudice, something that she embraced and wholeheartedly agreed with. Supporting her father's decision won her favour with him, which in turn led her to believe that she can gain favour and possibly position if she applies it to different aspects of her life. She craved acceptance, so much to the point that she wanted to enforce it. Unfortunately, her see-through persona was spotted by several teachers in Hogwarts, and Dolores was given no position of prominence in her schooling days. Horace Slughorn first to spot her true character. This only made her more eager to succeed after her graduation from Hogwarts. She was a Slytherin after all, so it's no surprise her ambition was matched with cunning in order to achieve her goals. Also, during Umbridge's time in school, especially within Slytherin, it was socially dictated that having a more prestigious background meant greater respect, something she took advantage of. She fabricated a lie stating that she was related to the pure-blooded Selwyn family in order to gain more prestige, in order to be accepted. Her obsession with acceptance grew stronger as the years went on, in addition to a self-justification that supported her belief in everything she felt was right. Dolores was not one to admit her own mistakes. In fact, I wouldn't put it past her even being able to recall any. She always did what she believed was the right thing to do, and trust me when I say the word right, it's in air quotes with a large asterisk beside it, and that's something we can look at a little later in the video. So it's at this point we know that she craves acceptance, and she took things to the next level as she progressed within the ranks of the ministry. She was embarrassed by her father's lack of ambition and even persuaded him to retire early in exchange for a small monthly allowance, a price she was willing to pay in order to have him out of sight. She worked her way up to the position of Undersecretary to the Minister of Magic himself, and they really were the perfect fit. Cornelius Fudge was a man who only heard what he wanted to hear. Dolores Umbridge was his yes woman, who blindly supported even his most ridiculous theories and accusations, all to gain his favour and most importantly, gain his trust. And trust her he did. Through most likely encouraging his ever-growing doubt of Albus Dumbledore, Dolores secured herself a teaching role at Hogwarts in order to keep an eye on things, and most likely Harry Potter. This is where she really brought her own self-justification into the fold, something that really reflected the very worst of her character. We'd already seen an example of this when she sent the Mentors into the Muggle world to hunt Harry in order to stop his impending return to Hogwarts, knowing that the creatures were instructed to suck out Harry's soul. Even with Harry escaping, she still made sure, along with Fudge's support of course, that Harry was expelled. It's clear as day that this woman was not right mentally if she could order such an attack. It got worse when she went to Hogwarts. Umbridge was a different kind of tyrant. She didn't crave change. She didn't want to become the best she could be. She simply wanted to feel powerful and enforce her own authority. She took pleasure from making others feel worse, and she justified it as an acceptable punishment. Dolores didn't truly hate students. She actually loved them. She loved them because they were an easy target. The easiest target. It made her feel strong. It compensated for the power she was denied as a student herself in her Hogwarts days. It compensated for the substandard upbringing she had and the fact that someone like her shouldn't have ever been in any position to command respect from the community due to what she's seen as being from an impure family. Her medieval, outdated treatment of misbehaving students was cruelty beyond any reason. There was no slap on the wrist or warning from Dolores Umbridge. It was a punishment she ensured that the student would never forget, and for her, that's what justified it. That's what erased any conscience she had regarding guilt. The real truth is that she had no identity. She was always chasing acceptance rather than embracing who she truly was. She'd spent so long with the mindset of climbing to prominence that the sad reality is she would never be in a position to actually discover the real Dolores Umbridge. Once she had a place, she was happy. She would have happily followed Voldemort if he was in an open position of power within the Ministry. She followed his puppet regime with relative ease, and actually proudly supported him in the alternate timeline of the Cursed Child, of which we'll say no more about. So, the whole issue with this Umbridge versus Voldemort thing is that, okay, well, Voldemort isn't the typical villain, it's still his role within the story. He's the bad guy that wants to control the wizarding world and has caused such horrific damage that everyone in that world is terrified, and I'm putting emphasis on that world. Voldemort isn't that relatable as a villain. Don't get me wrong, his backstory is fully relatable, but we've all known or experienced a Dolores Umbridge in our lifetime from schooling or a working standpoint, and because that is more personally relatable with us as viewers and readers, I believe that's why we feel more of a hatred to Umbridge. Anyway guys, with that being said, that is my video on what was really happening with Dolores Umbridge, what was going on inside her head. I think it's always interesting to try and see things from her perspective and her point of view. Guys, there is a slight delay with the release of the Riddle and animated story trailer. My animation team are really working hard to get this right, which means going over and reviewing it in detail. So please be patient, I promise you it will be worth it. I hope you liked the sneak peek from the trailer as well. Thanks again guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, I truly appreciate your support. Everyone, notifications of uploads are more important than ever, so please, if you haven't already, turn those notifications on to make sure you're notified the moment my video goes live. Making videos is what I love to do, it's my dream and my passion. However, it does cost time and money to produce this content, so if you have $1 to spare to support me on Patreon in exchange for some exclusive unseen content, then you can click the Patreon link below or at the end of this video. Please only support me if you can afford it. And make sure to follow me on Instagram at InstaDNJ and on Twitter at PotterFolklore Check out my other videos appearing on screen, and please make sure, most importantly, to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again everyone, and please have a great day.